Simon's Trading Channel. Happy Wednesday to you. That's the midpoint of the week for CME. It's not the midpoint of the week for Bybit, but it's hump day for everyone. So I hope you're all well. And yeah, let's just get straight on with the price action analysis. Thank you for joining me for another video. If you like this, I do one every day, then like and subscribe and you'll get a notification. All right, so you can see that I put a Fibonacci retracement on here. This is a daily chart from the top there to the bottom here, and on daily closures so far Bitcoin perfectly retraced excuse me, or bounced to the 382. Now if it does turn down from here and indeed get down below this wick low, which is at basically 49,000, then that's continuation to the downside. And this bounce might not be over yet, but it's starting to look like it is, but it may not be over yet. Now, the 382 is the least impressive of all bounces. What would have been better would probably be in a 0.5, and what would have been even better would have been a 618, because that would have taken Bitcoin back above 60,000. And on a daily time frame, that would look very good for continuation of the consolidation. But right now, I've got to be leaning for more downside. The daily momentum is still clearly to the downside and will continue falling with Bitcoin continuing. Will continue to the downside. Oh, I got all mixed up in my own words. The MACD will continue to the downside unless Bitcoin gets closer to 60,000. So that's that magical number, 60,000. It's been very important for quite some time and continues to be so. This blue line, this remains, I think, the first sort of leg up that Bitcoin needs to take to maybe start to reverse things, but it's fairly, that's quite far away from that at the moment. Now the 4 hour, so you can see it did so this was obviously the impulsive move down and then the bounce. Now, the bounce nearly got up to the 0.5, but didn't on a wick basis, and it's now closed its last 4 hour candle below the 382, which makes me think that the next move down, or the next move of significance, is going to be to the downside. Now, whether or not that comes all the way down, or does it retest somewhere around 51 and then make its mind up, nobody knows. But yeah, at the moment the momentum is certainly to the downside on the 4 hour and on the daily, so you would expect more downside rather than up at the moment. I'm not quite sure why the price isn't here. Must have fiddled around with the settings somehow. I don't remember doing that. But the current price is 54.8. Now, it will continue falling, so the MACD will continue falling with price, if price remains below basically 55,000. Well, it's not a million miles away from there, and so a move really just slightly north of where Bitcoin is at the moment, and MACD will continue to rise. And obviously the more it rises, the closer it gets to the zero line, and once it crosses the zero line, momentum is to the upside, and you'd be looking for, or I would be looking for more upside, certainly on a 4 hour time frame, which then may bleed into the daily if enough time passes. But at the moment, still got to be looking for more downside, and that's only really negated, I would suggest, with 4 hour closures back above 57,000. Yeah. Just have a quick look at the weekly as Bitcoin sets in, particularly if I get CME up, as it sets in its midpoint weekly candle. And you can see there is the obvious gap. Now, if I get rid of those silly, one second, if I move my head, if I get rid of those silly drawings for a moment, it's all getting a bit confused. There we are, I managed to do it. So momentum's still to the upside on the weekly. and it's still far enough away for this to be meaningless, this number. But you can see that Bitcoin did indeed fill this gap, but it set up another gap. I did mention this in a couple of videos ago. So, that seems like a reasonable target for potentially continuation of a bounce. Now, if it did bounce up to there on CME, which is basically 62,000, if it can close weekly back up there, that just looks like more consolidation and a waiting game. But yes, if this gap remains unfilled, then I would suggest a more prolonged period of downside, and 45,000 seems like the obvious target for me personally. That would be obviously having got more closures back below 50,000, give or take. So yeah, it's not hanging in the balance so much as it was. I think Bitcoin had a good chance in this region to continue this 4-hour uptrend, but having broken down, then yeah, it's hard to look for more upside in a meaningful way at the moment. I think you certainly could if Bitcoin could reclaim 60,000 on the daily. And I'll leave it at that. Nice, short, snappy video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care. See you for Thursday's video.